Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk to you guys about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I mentioned before in my past videos, I believe a lot of police officers have this and either know it and don't want to be diagnosed with it for reasons such as shame, just not wanting to know, worried about the repercussions that if the detachment or health services finds out what will happen to you. But I feel that it's an important topic to discuss as a lot of people live in secret about it. So I have PTSD and I just wanted to kind of go through that. So if you're someone right now who has not been diagnosed, or you're feeling every day a feeling of not being able to get through the day, or you're really anxious, nervous about going into work and stuff, literally don't go in and see your doctor. I remember that day of someone saying to me, you just don't go to work the next day, because I was in such a state of anxiety and panic and just unable to literally move. And they were like, you don't go into work the next day. You literally just call in, go see your doctor. And it was that friend who had been a member who walked me through that got me started on my process. And I am forever grateful that he did that. And I want to be that voice for somebody else who might be feeling that. And I remember saying, how do you just not go into work? It's actually that simple. You literally you call in, I'm not going to work, or send an email, and you go in and you see your doctor and you explain what's happening. And you're a number. I hate to say that, but you're just a number. Your reg number is the only number you are to these people. And I want you to take care of you first. So I want to talk to you about that. What is PTSD? So it says PTSD symptoms. So being easily startled or frightened, always being on guard for danger. So maybe if you go out, are you always counting the exits? How do I leave? If you go into a group setting, where do you sit in the room? Are you keeping track of everyone who walks in? Your back's against the wall, checking all areas that no one can come behind you. Where can I leave? I remember doing that just on going with my kids on a trip on a ferry, and constantly just feeling panicked and overwhelmed and counting the exits, counting my kids' heads. And if something happens here, where are we going to leave? How are we going to exit? Self-destructive behavior such as drinking too much or driving too fast. A lot of people turn to alcohol. It just is. A lot of times I worked with members who would just be like, let's go for a drink. And really they're drinking away the pain and the feeling and not wanting to feel. And that's just a coping mechanism. Trouble sleeping. Do you wake up a few hours after you go to bed? Thinking of work or something that could happen, or worst case scenario. Trouble concentrating. Is your mind constantly racing? You're constantly thinking things through and planning what the next action is going to be. Irritability, angry outbursts or aggressive behavior. Do you snap at your spouse or your children after a long day of work? Your mind's been spent, and then you come home and you got to deal with family things, but you put it basically on your family. Overwhelming guilt or shame that you might feel. Okay, so most people go through a traumatic event, especially us police officers. I feel that every time you are called in any kind of 911 scenario, it's somebody else's worst day. And you just repeat that every single day of your life. You're going to somebody's worst day. And you just have to kind of numb it so you can get through the day. It can last for years. Sometimes a traumatic event might have occurred, but you don't really feel the traumatic repercussions of PTSD till years later. And then maybe then all of a sudden it hits you. So they say that there's 4 types so it says PTSD symptoms are generally grouped into 4 types. So they say intrusive memory, avoidance, negative changes in thinking and mood, and changes in physical and emotional reactions. So intrusive memories, what would that be? So reoccurrent, unwanted distress memories of the traumatic event. Have you ever been involved in a police shooting and that just replays in your mind? Or a fight that happened and you're constantly replaying that in your mind. You're reliving the traumatic event as if it were happening again, and it's just flashbacks that you're constantly having. Do you wake up with upset dreams? nightmares, traumatic night terrors. That's something else. Let's see, feeling emotionally numb, like you just can't anymore, so you just kind of numb yourself to let it go. Changes in physical emotional reaction. So this could be being easily startled or frightened, like jittery if something happens, or maybe you hear a sound and it just like bolts you because it reminds you of like a tone alert. Always being on guard for danger. I definitely feel that all the time, no matter where I am. Especially if I'm out with like my children, I'm like hyper aware, like hyper vigilant of everything that's going on. Self-destructive behavior, trouble sleeping, trouble concentrating, irritability, anger outbursts, and overwhelming guilt or shame. One thing is like, I feel like this is like a common symptoms of police officers, like we're go, 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 go. Do you ever like wait in line, like I'm gonna use like Tim Hortons or something, and you're like say in the drive-through, but everyone's taking so long, and the whole time you're just like, hurry up, come on, move, let's go. Where am I in a rush to? I'm literally going nowhere. I'm going to get a tea or something, and why am I so anxious that everyone's taking so long to move and to get done? That I feel like is like a common stressor for people. Avoidance. Symptoms of avoidance may include trying to avoid thinking or talking about the traumatic event. For years, I knew in my mind that I had PTSD, but I did not want to go see someone for them to like diagnose me. I didn't want to be labeled as something, and I just avoided. I was just like, I don't want to talk about it again. I don't want to bring it up to someone. I don't want to relive it. I don't want to discuss it. Avoiding places, activities, or people that remind you of the traumatic event. One of the areas I worked with was in Langley, and I had some traumatic events happen there. And I literally would refuse to go to Langley. And when I would have to go, like if my kid had a sporting event or something like that, I would just feel such anxious, like so much stress and anxiety, just even driving there, driving the roads again. And I'd rather just avoid the whole area altogether. Negative changes in thinking or mood, negative thoughts about yourself. Do you constantly put yourself down? And other people of the world. Everyone's a liar. Oh my gosh, that's the motto I live by. Everyone's a liar unless you prove me wrong. Hopelessness about the future, memory problems. Sometimes I can't even remember what happened yesterday. I just like, what? Like I cannot remember the basic things, but can remember things from like 5 years ago. It's like my mind becomes just so overload. Like I have a glass that's full of water, and it's like someone just added one more drop that drizzled through the glass, like, and now it's coming out, and I'm so overwhelmed that I just can't remember the things. And so it just like overflows. So memory problems, including not remembering important aspects of a traumatic event. I've had that as well, where I remember the traumatic event occurred, but I don't remember, well, I'm pretty sure no one ever, I don't even know if they do it now, but they're supposed to, if a traumatic event happens, they're supposed to, like as a group, bring you guys together, and I think like have counselors come in and stuff like that. I've literally never been in one of those roundtables. They never did anything or even talked about it. It was like, end of story, you went. But I don't remember like what happened to the people. It's like, I remember being there and the things happening to me, but I don't remember what happened to the people after, or like, did they go to jail? Were they arrested? Did we go to court? I can't even remember. Difficulty maintaining close relationships. I literally cut off my friends. There was actually a point in time where an incident occurred, and I remember my boss pulling me into his office and saying, choose your friends wisely. Like, these aren't friends. And they were police officers. Who the hell can I be friends with if I cannot be friends with my coworkers? And I distanced myself from everybody. I didn't go out in public with people. I didn't hang out with friends. I didn't hang out with other police officers because who could I trust? And you just really isolate yourself, and that becomes just like a way of living. And it's difficult to maintain any kind of friendships when that happens. Other things like, I will not let my children sleep over at someone's house. That's like a no. My kids know, don't even ask me. It's no. You know, if someone wants to have a play date, they can come here. I do not know their parents. I do not know their friends. I do not know what's happening at their house. Absolutely not. If your friends want to come over, they can come here. There will be no sleepovers. I don't leave my children. Like, I don't take vacations away from my kids. Like, if I go somewhere, my kids come. I would never, which is, of course, my husband wants to go. Like, he's like, let's go to Mexico for a week, just the two of us, or go here. But he knows I will not leave my kids. That's part of what I feel like. That's part of my trauma. I will not leave them. I've dealt with too much and seen too much of like child abuse and things related to children that I just absolutely will not leave them. They come with us. I'm trying to think anything else like I can share with you guys. That fight or flight feeling that you get. But I'm just naming some. Like, I'm not obviously going into like depths of the different difficulties that I've experienced, but I'm trying to give you guys just kind of a light of what PTSD and trauma is, that you guys maybe recognize some of these in yourself. And if you haven't, go seek help. So there are psychologists. Psychologists cannot provide prescriptions, but registered psychologists, they are supported and paid for by the organization. And if you are retired and you have PTSD or anxiety, that becomes covered by Veterans Affairs. I mentioned before a K number. I know, like, don't think of K file like when you're working. A K number is what we would say equivalent to like an R00 number. That's just kind of like your medical and how it's billed. It should be direct billed. So it's psychologist, and then a psychiatrist, they can prescribe prescriptions. But you can still see a psychologist and go to your family physician for prescriptions if you need that for any kind of like medication. But anyways, they can do different techniques to help you move past the trauma. And really, the first step is admitting that you have trauma and what has occurred, and actually find someone to talk to. So if you don't have someone, you're like, I don't even know who I would contact, you can comment here, and I don't mind sharing who I see, or I would go on one of those groups like Injured Members. You can even do that anonymously. Hey, I'm in this area. Can someone share with me who they go and see? I think it would probably be best to see someone who has experience in the organization with RCMP, because we are such a unique organization that comes with its own baggage. It would be kind of nice if you had someone who already kind of understands the workings of what the RCMP is as an organization, and the issues that come just with community and acceptance, and can understand too like how difficult it is to admit you have PTSD. I want to make it so it's a commonplace for people to talk about. I don't want people to feel isolated and left out. Like, let's talk about it. Let's admit it to each other so that we're all in the same boat. Why are we feeling isolated from one another and nervous to talk about it? So I wanted to mention that to you guys today about PTSD. Encourage you guys to go seek help if you have that or any symptoms. And again, file a Veterans Affairs claim for PTSD if you have been diagnosed. Make sure you do that. The sooner you get your claim in, that's the date the money starts and gets backdated to. So it's really important to do your claims. Anyways, if you guys have any questions or comments, please leave it. Like and subscribe so I know you guys are listening. Thanks.